Good afternoon. Welcome to Gigging, how to bring in additional income. Today's presentation is going to be offered to you by Jasmine Lilly from the Delaware Money School and myself, Maria Pepitas, from the University of Delaware Cooperative Extension. This program is being co-sponsored by the University of Delaware Cooperative Extension and from the Delaware Money School, which is a part of the Delaware Community Reinvestment Action Council. In addition, we want to acknowledge the help from the Delaware Division of Libraries as a key partner in helping to get the word out. Today, we have several objectives. We're hoping that you're going to feel more confident in determining what your income needs are. You're going to be knowing a little bit more and understanding some of the liability considerations to be thinking about, and becoming aware of a variety of part-time income opportunities, which we're calling gigs. So one of the first things that you really need to think about is how much income do you need to bring in? And as you contemplate this, it's important to think about developing a spending plan. And so there are a couple of steps to think about to create a spending plan. And one is to determine that income and cash flow, meaning what is coming in and what is going out in terms of your expenses. The next step is really to be thinking about what are those expenses. And that would include those fixed expenses. Those are the ones that stay the same every month. The flexible expenses, the things that go up and down every month, and then the periodic expenses. Those might be things that come only occasionally or seasonally. For example, birthday expenditures or holiday expenditures or vacations or auto insurance. And beginning to identify what those expenses are and keeping track of them, writing them down, will help you better understand that what is going out part of the equation. The next step is to determine any savings needs, and that may be short-term, intermediate, 1 to 2 years, or long-term, and then begin to build them into the spending plan. The next step is identifying those debt payments and goals that you might have around how you're going to pay off your debts. So what are those monthly minimums? And then if you're going to try and pay more than the monthly minimums, how much is that going to be? And all of that needs to go into your spending plan as well. So at this point, you have a fairly accurate view of what is going out. And now you can begin to compare it with what is coming in. And so if you look at that and your income isn't as much as your outflow, then you can begin to figure out, well, how much more income do I need to help me meet expenses, savings goals, and debt payment? So for example, let's say all of your expenses flowing out is $1,500 and your inflow, your income at this point is 1,000. So if you do the subtraction, then that means that you would need to bring in $300 more a month to help cover those expenses. So it's really important to kind of get a handle on what's the income coming in, and then also what is the fixed, flexible, and those seasonal or periodic expenses. All right, another thing to think about is savings, right? And so what are those savings goals that you might have? And they might be, we tend to think about them short, intermediate, long term, and begin to then build them into the spending plan. So as an example, I know my car is going to need new tires. And unfortunately, my tires are really expensive. They're like $100 a piece. So that's $400 roughly. All right, so that's $300 to $400. So how do I begin to build that in? That may be a short term, a goal for me. An intermediate term goal for me might be next year's vacation. And a long-term goal for me is, which is not too long-term for me, I'm maybe 5 years away from retirement, right? So building that in, making sure I am setting aside for each of those goals as an important thing. And my view is we need to develop a spending plan that builds in those periodic, fixed, flexible, periodic, and the savings goals so that we really have a good sense of what it is we're looking for in terms of how much income we want to bring in.
And just to
So,
jump in there, Maria, that is very important in determining how much you need. That way you're just not working and working and working and you're not feeling like you're getting anywhere, or you're not sure if you've reached your goal. It's important to know that you need X amount of dollars.
right.
And then you'll know when you reach it.
So kind of getting on to this next item here is this notion of making sure you've got your debts, you're covering the debts and the obligations that you might have and the goals you might have about paying down your debt. So that needs to be built in, right? So then once you kind of have all of that information, and it may be more information than you've ever tried to incorporate into a spending plan, it's okay. That's the goal here. Let's be really realistic. So we're comparing then what is coming in with what is going out actually, and what you want, where you want your money to go, right? So that is going to include those periodic expenses, those savings goals, that debt payment plan, right? So most likely, when I've worked with clients on this, most likely we get to this stage and the income is not enough to cover all of those things, because now we've incorporated in the things that we not only need to do, but want to do. And so now at this point, we need to look at, well, are there places that we can cut? Are there places we can cut? And some people say, oh yeah, well, maybe we eat out less, right? Or maybe we can do some other things less frequently, or spend less on clothing, for example, because these other goals now are really important. And I can justify spending less in these other areas because these other things are important. But even at that point, you might say, gosh, still not enough income. And that's where you can get to this place of how much do I really need to earn so that I have enough to cover where I want my money to go and where I need my money to go. So I hope that makes sense. And I think that underscores what Jasmine was just saying about you got to figure out what you're shooting for in terms of that income. As I said before, Jasmine is going to send you a tool that will help you kind of visually begin to think about, how do I create a good spending plan and figure out what is that income amount I'm looking for. And then from there, you have a good sense of where do you want to go in terms of a job and how much it may help contribute to meeting those the cash flow. So now I'm going to totally change gears and talk a little bit about liability considerations. So whenever you're taking on a second job, you need to be thinking about maintaining your sense of financial security and protecting yourself. And so some of the things that Jasmine's going to share with you is about sharing your assets in some way. For example, renting your car or renting out your home. And so one of the things you really need to look at is, if something happens, do you have the insurance coverage, or does your insurance policy cover the instances when you may be renting out your home or your car, for example? Making sure that if something happens, then the insurance policy will help cover it. So that's really important. The second is, if you have coverage from a different job, will that cover any risks that you may occur with your gig? So for example, let's say I'm a truck driver, right? And that is my job. And I have some extra fancy schmancy insurance, auto insurance policy, because I am a truck driver through a company. Will that, if I decide to rent my car, will that policy cover my personal property? If I have a physical injury, does my current job have health insurance or disability insurance that will cover me if I get hurt doing a gig type of job? So those are the kinds of questions that you need to kind of evaluate and review to see. Because it also may mean, if the answer is no, additional coverage may be important. Obviously, it depends on the gig you're going to go for. I think the other thing that's really important is this third one, which is if you're signing contracts, you need to really understand what you're responsible for and what the overarching company is responsible for, right? And adjust any insurance coverage that you might need in order to be sure that you're safe, right? Because, contracts are often written to keep the overarching company safe. They're not always, I'll just say, consumer friendly. So you want to be sure that you are protected. And that's why this last piece is here. If you're unsure, if you don't understand the contract, then you want somebody to review it. And it's usually a lawyer, right? And so if you're in a situation where you can't afford a lawyer, then I would say you could call legal aid, or you could work with Jasmine and get connections into the Delaware Community Action Group, right? So those are some suggestions, just to be sure that your liability is covered and you don't become responsible for anything that happens as a result of taking on this gigging job.
I do want to emphasize that it is important to make sure that you understand and read through any kind of contracts, any kind of requirements that whatever gig you're doing has, so that you can make sure that you're covered. So the first logo you'll see is the Toro logo. So Toro, and everything that I'm listing here, I'll provide you a list that lays out all of these different gigs and how to access them and what the requirements are. And then you can follow up with your own research and figure out if those things are for you. So we'll start with Turo. So Turo is an American peer-to-peer car sharing company. Something like an enterprise rental car type company. The only difference is people rent out their own personal vehicles. So Turo gives you the opportunity to take your personal car, whether it be your main vehicle or a spare car you may have, as long as it is in good condition and it's less than 130,000 miles on the car. Unless it is an antique or classic car, then there are different exceptions for that. But basically, Turo allows you to rent your car to other people in your area. You take your pictures, you put your requirements on their website, and it allows people to basically book your car. You only need the spare car, and you just need the ability to meet someone where the car is. So you would list your car. They would come and say, I want to rent your car for 5 days for this amount of money. Turo takes a portion of the profits and you keep, and I believe it's 70%. Turo does have its own insurance through Liberty Mutual, and you can pick one of 3 levels of coverage. You can decide to use your own coverage. You can get a standard coverage, and then you can get a premium coverage. The potential pay range for Turo is about $25 to $150 per day, depending on the type of car you have. So the more luxurious the car, the more high-end the car, the more money you can make. I have a 2009 Honda Coupe that I have listed on Turo. I've had my car listed there for about 6 months, and I've been able to bring in about $1,500 in income over the course of that 6 months. It is important to make sure that you're considering any kind of, maintenance things that may happen, because people will be driving your car. There are mileage limitations, so you can set the limits for whatever you'd like. If you only want them to drive locally, you can put a 600-mile limit on it. If you're open to them driving your car for long trips, you can also set that too. Turo will cover, if depending on the insurance plan, you'll be able to get certain coverage through Turo. So that's always an option. I have mine set to where it's a 2-day minimum. You have to have my car for at least 2 days in order for me to rent it to you. And that's just because 1 day will only bring you about $30 to $40. So that's the first one. So we'll move on to some one you may have heard of, especially now throughout COVID-19 with the grocery stores closing and things like that. You have Instacart. So Instacart allows you to go grocery shopping for other people. The only thing you need is to be over the age of 18. You need to have a car and car insurance and 2 years driving history, a smartphone, ability to lift 30 to 40-pound packages without assistance, and be eligible to work in the US. So essentially what you would do is, well, you can make between $5 and $15 an hour, and maybe more, especially during this time. I've found that some people have made upwards of $1,000 in 1 week by doing Instacart. You're basically downloading the app to your phone. You will receive a Instacart debit card. You will pick up an order, so you'll see a list of orders on your screen. You'll see how much they're paying. You'll see where they are. You can pick one. You can go to the grocery store. You basically grocery shop. I find it something good to do. I tend to pick an order when I'm already grocery shopping. So when I go to grocery shop for myself, I may pick an Instacart order at the same time. That way I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm shopping for my own personal household, and I'm getting paid essentially to do it. You then pick the orders. If there are any complications with selection, let's say an item is not available, you're able to reach out to the person who ordered the groceries to ask them, do you want this or that? Or do you want to just drop the item in entirety, or do you want to replace it with something else? So it's a method of communication between the person who's ordering and the person who's picking for the delivery. You'll then pay for it with your Instacart card, and you can then go to deliver that to the person who ordered it. So Instacart is pretty cool. Again, right now we're seeing that people are not wanting or not able to do their own grocery shopping. So tips are a little higher because of the COVID. It's a little riskier to be in the market environment. DoorDash is another peer-to-peer service. It's a food delivery service. Someone will place an order from a fast food, a Wendy's, a Chick-fil-A, a restaurant. They will pick that up for you. They'll package it and they will deliver it to your home. Typical DoorDash pay is between $5 and $12, depending on the order. Sometimes there are surge prices where areas may become busier than normal, where they'll give you a $2 boost on top of any orders you take, or a $4 boost on top of any orders that you take. Only requirements is you must be 18 or older. You cannot have any major driving violations within the last 7 years, and you must pass a criminal background check and an assessment. Pretty basic assessment. It's not a physics test. It's pretty basic. But it allows you to move on your own time. If you're just not doing anything or you just have some free time, you can always just turn on the app and pick up some deliveries. And there's no minimum requirement for you to make deliveries. You can do 1 delivery if you'd like. So that's another option. You'll go pick up the food. They're doing contactless delivery at this time, where you get the food, you drop it off on a person's front step, ring the doorbell, let them know you're there, they come out and get it. So that's a pretty safe option during this time in order to bring in additional income. And you can make upwards of $100 a day, depending on how many deliveries you do. You can stay local. You can pick and choose what deliveries you take. They'll try to keep deliveries within your radius, maybe I'd say like a 5-mile radius. But you can go to different areas and make the delivery. So I'll move on to the next one you see, which you also may have heard of, is Amazon Flex. So Amazon Flex allows drivers to deliver packages for Amazon in your own vehicle. So you basically go to the Amazon app. There will be blocks of work. So let's say it's from 5 to 10:30. It'll be 5 to 10:30. It'll tell you how much it'll pay you. Most of those blocks range anywhere from, if it's 4 hours, they range anywhere from about $85 to about $120. So the only requirements for Amazon Flex is that you be 21 or older, you have a valid driver's license and auto insurance, and you own a mid-size sedan, car, or truck, you have a smartphone, and you pass a background check. So there's opportunity with Amazon Flex to make upwards of $200 per day. So some of these are things that can be a gig, or it can actually bring you a full-time income. Amazon has tons of packages going out, and you basically pick the time you want to work. There are times scheduled anywhere as early as 4 o'clock in the morning to the last block you could probably take is at about 6 or 7. That will have you done at about 10 or 11. So you have the opportunity to do that during the day. I like Amazon Flex just because if you have children, you can bring your children with you. You can have your child in the car. If there's someone you're caring for, you will have the opportunity to go out and work. If childcare is an option, this is something that could possibly work for you because you can have your kid with you or whomever you're caring for with you while you're working. And again, they range from 2-hour blocks up until 4-hour blocks of time, and you can take them at your own leisure. After a certain amount of time, they will start giving you preferred blocks. So they'll say, here's this block, we're giving this is only for you. When you don't have your own individualized blocks, you'll be able to select from those that are available. But you got to be fast because there are tons of Amazon drivers on the app looking for those same jobs. So we'll move to the next one, which is Lyft. I saw someone, Sue, says she has driven for Lyft. So Lyft is a car sharing app, just like Uber. It allows you to pick up people and transport them to where they need to be. Your Lyft fares are charged directly to the person, from the person, and they are put in an account for you. They can be preloaded to your debit card, your payment, or it can be sent directly to your bank account. And with Lyft, you can make from $5 to $25 per hour. This is another one that can be a full-time job if you'd like it to be. I've seen people doing Lyft and Uber make upwards of $90,000 a year on Lyft and Uber alone. So depending on your location, if you're in a busy area, I'd say maybe Philly or like a high traffic area, or even downtown Wilmington, where there's not much parking, people like to commute via Lyft and Uber. Those are good things to do. You must be 21 years old and you must pass a online driver's test and a background check for Lyft. I've seen that throughout this time that Lyft and Uber drivers are putting up protective filters in their car, just to kind of like the plastic between their front and their back seats to protect themselves from the COVID, virus. So Lyft is also an option if you like driving and if you don't mind having other passengers and if you feel comfortable with having passengers in your car. With the Lyft requirements, you must meet your city's vehicle age requirement. You must have at least 4 doors, so you can't have a 2-door car. You must offer 5 to 8 seats, including the driver, have a driver's license for 1 year, and have proof of insurance and a car inspection, and submit a photo of yourself, just so that people know who you are when they get in your vehicle. So the next one we have is Rapify. So Rapify is a company that pays you to wrap your car with advertising, and then you drive as normal. You can make anywhere from $80 to $450 per month, depending on the advertisement. This is good for those who may travel to highly populated areas or areas that have a lot of traffic, because the idea is that the company wants their advertising to be seen. And so if you do a lot of traveling, if you're on the road a lot, or even if you're doing DoorDash or Lyft or something of that nature, where you're often on the road, you can consider doing Rapify. Once you sign up, you download the app or go onto the website, you put your car into the, I guess, the website web field. What it does is initially it'll track your driving. So you'll have your phone, you'll have the app on your smartphone, and as you drive your normal day to and do your normal day-to-day activities, it's tracking where you're going and determining what companies want to advertise in the areas that you travel. So you'll be presented with an offer that says, hey, this business would like you to advertise. They're paying this amount of dollars. They want to wrap your car for this amount of time. And you can say yay or nay. The only requirements for that is you must be 21 years of age or older. You must have a smartphone, and you must have a car that is a 2008 or newer. So that's something good with if you're looking for things to do that don't require you to necessarily do any work. It kind of works itself. So the next one, which you probably, if you haven't done it, you may have used an Airbnb. Airbnb is an online marketplace that connects people who want to rent their homes or rooms to people who are looking for accommodations in that area. You can make potentially from $50 to $10,000 per month, depending on the room or home that you have. So if you have a spare bedroom in your home and you don't mind sharing it with a stranger, of course, that's something that you can do. It must be furnished, and you can kind of pick the amount that you want to charge for each night. If you have maybe a beach house or a rental home or a home that you're not using but you have, or you just use for some period of time, you can rent the whole home. I see a lot of people rent their beach houses. They may have a condo that's not their primary home, and they can use that for Airbnb. I've actually considered using Airbnb. I'm a little nervous just because I have a young child with having strangers in the home. So those are things you want to think about when doing Airbnb, is just know that these are strangers. They will be coming into your home. And so you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with having someone in your home. You also need a PayPal or bank account where they will deposit your rental fund. The next one we have here is Poshmark. Poshmark is a e-commerce, social commerce marketplace where people can buy and sell new or used clothing, shoes, and accessories. So what Poshmark does is if you have old clothes that you just no longer want any longer, or you have use for, accessories, you can post them on your own personal Poshmark page. You select the price of what you want to sell it for, and you would get 20%. Poshmark gets 20% of the proceeds. So you list them and you sell them. The higher quality of the item, the more money you have. The more potential money you can make. You must be of legal age. You must have a smartphone, and you must have things to sell that are in decent condition. So that's a pretty simple way to bring in additional income, especially if you're looking to do some spring cleaning, or if you've outgrown some things, whether it be physically outgrown them or just personally you have outgrown these items. One person's trash is the next person's income. So you can always post it, list it, and try to make some money. The next one we have is ThreadUp. ThreadUp is something like Poshmark, except for it, you don't have to do the work. ThreadUp is a process like a local consignment shop, whereas you would bring your items and they'll sell them for you. They'll pay you right then and there. They'll sell them for you in a consignment shop. So ThreadUp, what they'll do is once you visit their site or download their app, you will request for them to send you packaging. They'll send you a bag that is about, I would say the size, I don't know, maybe 7 by 10. They'll send you a bag or 10 bags. You'll fill the bags up, you'll reseal them, and you'll send them to ThredUp. So any items that you're wanting to get rid of, clothes and accessories, you'll pack them all in the bags and you'll send them to ThredUp. They'll review everything that you've sent in. They'll say, okay, you can make this much, you may be able to get this amount from this item, this amount from this item. They'll basically select the items that they want to keep in their inventory to sell. They'll give you an estimate of the price that you can sell it for and what you'll potentially make. And once the items sell, you'll receive payment. If there are items that they cannot accept and they don't feel can be resold, they will either, one, donate them to a local charity, or they will send them back to you, but you will have to pay for postage for them to send those items back to you. And then what happens is you just wait. You send them to them and you wait until your items sell. Once they sell, you'll get your payout. And again, the same thing with Poshmark. The higher quality item is the higher payout you'll get. So I'll move on to the next one. And I've grouped these together. Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is something that is a little newer. It's probably not newer, but people are just now kind of getting into it. So Facebook Marketplace allows you to list and sell almost anything. Your household things, toasters, blenders, furniture, clothes. You can sell cars, toys, your own personal crafts that you may make can be sold on Marketplace. You keep 100% of the list price, and it's free to post on Facebook Marketplace. Letgo also is another app that will allow you to sell your things, and you keep 100% of the profit. As well as OfferUp. OfferUp allows you to do the same. You can post all of your items and you sell them and you keep 100% of the profit. Those things are good because you post them from your own space. It doesn't require you to take them anywhere. You can also post services on Facebook, Letgo, OfferUp if you have one. The only thing that I would say in regards to posting on Facebook, Letgo, and OfferUp is just make sure that you're meeting people when you're going to make these exchanges. You're meeting people in a public place, well-lit area, and make sure that, public place, well-lit. We just had an experience where we went to sell our dirt bike and someone paid us in counterfeit money. You have to be aware of those kind of things and just kind of stay on your P's and Q's. You want to trust people, but you have to know that there are scammers and there are people out there that are looking to take advantage of those types of situations. So I would say meet them maybe at a shopping center, even a police station, somewhere where you feel safe and you know that if something happens, you'll be okay. So that's always an option. And the only thing you need for that is things that you want to get rid of, things you want to sell. And so that is the last of that list, but I have some other gigs that you can do some research on, type them in Google. There's one called Roadie. Roadie is an app that allows you to do transportation jobs. If you have a truck or a van, like a commercial type van or a pickup truck, or a vehicle where you can haul things, it allows you to go on that app, and let's say someone needs a living room couch moved from Delaware to New Jersey. They'll have it listed. It'll tell you how much they're paying, and you can say, oh, I'll take that trip. You go pick up their item, you deliver it, and then you get paid. There's also Carvertise. Carvertise is something like Rapify, where you wrap your car and you get paid for advertising. We have Uber Eats. Uber Eats is just like a DoorDash or a Postmates or a Grubhub, where you deliver food. You also have something that's newly rising. It's called GoPuff. That's where you go and shop at local convenience stores like Wawa, 7-Eleven, stores like that to get snacks, chips, candy, sodas, things of that nature that you can deliver. Grubhub is like a DoorDash for food. Same thing, you pick up food, you deliver it to to people. And Postmates is the same, pick up food, deliver it to the person. So another thing to look at is monetizing your hobbies, skills, or crafts. In regards to monetizing your hobbies, skills, or crafts, I saw someone said they bake. If you know people that are looking for things that you're able to do, if you bake, if you make food, there's always people looking for something that you have. So you can think about posting your cakes or your cupcakes or your desserts, selling them. If you sew, now's the time that people are selling masks. People need, what do you call it? Where you hem the bottom, like alterations. Yes, if you need alterations, if you know how to sew, that's something to think of. So any kind of skills or crafts, if you're a good writer and maybe you're good at editing resumes, things like that to think about monetizing. And when you do have those crafts, let's say you make jewelry or you make crocheted items, Etsy is a place, ETSY, and I'll give you guys a copy of this list of things. But Etsy is a place where you can sell your handmade items. They don't take any part of the proceeds, and you're able to sell those items, as well as eBay. eBay is something that's been around for quite some time, and you can sell your items there. So those are some things that you can think about. If you are good at cleaning, some things don't need anything but yourself. So maybe you're good at cleaning. Some people look for people to clean their homes, or if you're good at meal preparation, sometimes people pay for things that'll save them time, because time is the thing that you can't make more of. So some people don't have enough of it to do what they need to do. So if you have some time and you have the ability to help someone out with even household items or household things, you may be able to make an income from it. I know at one point I was so busy, I paid someone to do my laundry because I just didn't have the time. Laundry piled up, it was so much, and I couldn't handle it. So I paid someone to do it, and that person got the money that they were looking for, and I got a service done for me that I needed. So that's pretty much the list of that. Someone said, where do you pick up packages for Amazon Flex? So there are two places you can pick the packages up. There is one off of Route 13 near the farmers market on Route 13. That's where one of the locations is. And there's another, I forget exactly where, but they'll tell you where. And in each area, in each state, depending on where you are, there are probably 2 or 3 locations to pick them up. But I know the one is on 13, and then there's another one. And you may get sent when delivering the packages. Keep in mind, if you're in Delaware, you may get sent to Elkton, Maryland. You may be sent to Philadelphia. You may be sent to New Jersey. So some things that you want to think about when you're taking on an Amazon Flex role is if you have enough gas in your car, if you have money for tolls, because some place takes tolls, if you have cash for tolls. And those are things that you have to think about when saying, okay, I need $100. This block is paying me 120. You also need to factor in the gas that you're going to pay and the tolls you're going to pay. So if it pays you 120, you may only see $100. Are there any forms, certifications that you need before selling baked goods like cookies, pies, cakes, and etc.? Those things are good to have when you're making it an official business. I would say as a side hustle, you just want to make sure that you're keeping your area sanitized, you're following the necessary like safety requirements for keeping your products, I guess, clean, I would say. Essentially, if you are going to make it your business, you are going to want to have those forms and certifications. And they're good to have anyway, just to make those that are supporting your business secure and knowing that you're moving in the right direction. I buy desserts from people all the time that have no certifications. I may know them personally, or I may have been referred from a friend, but they are not official businesses. They are just people who have a craft and are good at what they do. And I like snacks. So I buy them.
But I can speak to the food safety people or the food safety question. And the answer is officially, yes, you need to have a kind of a business license, and you have to go through a food safety course. And there are new, how do I want to say this? It used to be that if you were baking out of your home or you're cooking out of your home, you also had to have your home inspected by public health. Recently, last 3 years, what is called a cottage baking regulation was passed that allows people to do baked goods, certain baked goods, from their home. And it's not all baked goods. It's baked goods that don't have like custard, like a custard pie would not be something you could make. So it's something that there are products that specifically from a public health perspective, we know that bacteria or things that could make people sick cannot grow on. And so they are items that do not have to be refrigerated for the most part. So there is a cottage industry certification program. I happen to know the instructor. Her name is Kathleen Splain. I can put her email in the chat. She is one of my colleagues. Cooperative Extension is one of the organizations that is certified by public health to offer that program. And so there are some things that you would need to investigate if you're really thinking about doing this as sort of more than a hobby, because there are liability issues involved and tracking issues involved in terms of the product. So it's, as Jasmine said, sort of making sure your kitchen is safe and clean and things like that. It's about the packaging. And there are also rules about not being able to take or sell across state lines. So it's just within Delaware that you can do that. This would also count, for example, if you were making batches of cookies and then going to sell them at the farmer's market, right? Those kinds of rules would come into place. So it's not just, you selling to your neighbor. It's also kind of doing a more commercial selling opportunity, I'll just say. I think the other thing that, if you have culinary skill, the other thing I've heard about is, people not wanting to prepare their own meals anymore, right? They're so busy that they know they should eat healthy, but they don't make the time to prepare healthy. And so there may be people who are interested in having almost like a Meals on Wheels, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a professional cook,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, having things made by a restaurant and then door dashed to their home. So again, if that's an interest of yours, you would have to have the right certification and culinary certification to do that, but it's an avenue and it could be provide a good income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People are, again, there's things that you can do that people will pay for simply for convenience. And
Mm-hmm.
meal prep is one of them, because it does take time, it does take energy to prep for the week. And sometimes you just don't want to do it. So I have seen a few people that do meal prep, and they'll just have it packaged for you and you come pick up your meals for your lunch for 7 days.